More on the budgets throughout the course of the day, but President Ramaphosa has conceded that government erred in not ensuring universal childhood or early childhood development 30 years ago. He was speaking during the Bana Early Childhood Development Leadership Summit in Johannesburg yesterday. Ramaphosa revealed that there was previously resistance in moving ECD centers from social development to the basic education department, as statistics suggest that over 1.3 million children are not enrolled in any form of ECD program. To speak more about the moves that are afoot, let's bring in Rex Molefe. He's the chair of the National ECD Alliance and director of Motheo Training Institute. And join us now via our video link. Great to have you on the program, sir. Thanks for your time and patience. Let me just get a sense of how realistic you feel these timelines are. 1.3 million children said to be enrolled in some kind of formal ECD program in 5 years' time. Is that achievable?
Thank you for hosting me, and greetings to our viewers. I must say that we appreciate the political will that has been demonstrated by the leadership of DBE and the President of the Republic of South Africa. In our view, these goals are achievable, measurable, but they will require effective coordination, and they will require that the messaging on the significance of ECD and Bana Pele be centralized. Then we'll be able to reach, because we are only left with 4 years, but it is achievable, even though it's a big ask.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
There's certainly a lot of money being pumped into making sure that this does happen. 10 billion rand, we're told, over the next 3 years or so. But there's also been real concerns about whether or not the teachers that are meant to facilitate this learning are in fact equipped to do so. I mean, this has been largely an informal sector. You know, you might find women, for example, in a community responding to a demand for childcare, taking it upon themselves to provide that. But now there needs to be a whole lot more of a professional approach to carrying out that work. And I wonder, what's your sense about how they should approach that problem?
Yeah, there is some work that is happening currently as we speak. There is a tax team that is looking into crafting a human resource development plan, which will be ultimately be costed. So it is at an advanced, it is being finalized. We are just cleaning it up. Once it is approved, then it will be costed. And we are hoping with that we will be able to address issues of skilling, reskilling, so that the ECD workforce can be professionalized. So there is a work that is happening, and we are mindful that in terms of supply and demand, we will need more capacitated, trained and qualified ECD practitioners to be able to provide quality service provisioning across all ECD service modalities. So as we speak, there is work that is currently happening, and that human resource development team is led by the Chief Director of the Department of Basic Education together with the civil society, and we are working on those strategies.
And what other support do you reckon these practitioners would need? Because part of what comes with standardizations are minimum requirements, not only for the skills that they possess, but also the facilities, for example, where they're meant to, facilitate that teaching.
Yeah, there will be a need for infrastructure development. There will be also a need for us to look into conditions of employment, because as we speak right now, you cannot expect one to be able to do what is of quality, yet that particular person is not properly taken care of. So we need to be able to look into conditions of employment. How can we improve that? We also need to talk about remuneration of this ECD workforce, because it's something else to say people, they must become professional and then achieve certain qualifications, but those qualifications, they are not linked to job opportunities or adequate remunerations. So there are these discussions that are going on, and we are hoping that given the political will that is being demonstrated by the leadership of the government, we will be able perhaps to get something moving to that direction.
Yeah, speaking about remuneration, it's a very important issue, especially given the economic times we live in. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, but the current setup is that there's a subsidy for each child that is, enrolled in a particular institution, ECD center. In your mind, how should that funding model change at all? For example, should the subsidy remain? If so, where does that leave conversations about whether or not the facilitators should get a salary? You know, should they be paid like every other teacher enrolled in the basic education system?
Yeah, we noted the budget speech where a certain amount was set aside, which will bring an increase from 17 rands per child to roughly to 24 rands per child. And at that 24 rand per child is expected to look after nutrition and other operational costs. So it is still not sufficient to can take care of the salaries of the employees. The employees who happen to be the ECD practitioners. But there are also some legislative challenges. You will recall that the majority of this workforce from different ECD modalities, they are not necessarily employees of the department. They are autonomous, and then they remain being employees of those who own those various ECD sites, be it home-based, care center-based, and so forth. So they are not necessarily employees of the department. So we need to look into those. How can we ensure that issues of compensation are being addressed? But the pulse is that department cannot assume that responsibility, because these people, they are not necessarily employed by them. They remain autonomous. But now we need to bring about a balancing act to say, where else can we leverage so that we can ensure that there is more money pumped into the ECD sector, so that issues of compensation or remuneration can be taken care of. So it's quite a very difficult one, but they will navigate and find a resolve to these complex issues. But that will require effective partnership, effective collaboration, as it is envisioned in the DBE strategy 2020, where they talk about social compact. We need to unpack that and ensure to it that indeed we mean practical partnership, collaboration, which is honest, transparent, and then with some integrity inside, and then be able to ensure that we mobilize resources to make this reality happen.
Yeah, it's certainly a tall task, but it's encouraging to hear both the sector and government singing from the same hymn book about what it will take ultimately to facilitate this transition. Rex Molefe, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Appreciate the time. Rex is the chair of the National ECD Alliance and director of Motheo Training Institute. Once again, thanks very much indeed.